So now our topic is spiritual solution to material problems, right? So first of all, I would like you all to address some of the material problems. What are the problems that we face in day-to-day life? What are your definition of problem? What do you consider as a problem? So everyone has some or another problem. Everyone has seen. आप में से बहुत लोगों ने बहुत सारी चीज़ें देखी जो आपको प्रॉब्लमैटिक लगती होंगी, आपको वो प्रॉब्लम जैसी परसीव होते होंगी. तो आप लोग हैंड्स अप करके एक बार बता सकते हैं आपके हिसाब से प्रॉब्लम्स क्या है. डोंट वरी, इस पे ग्रेड्स नहीं दिए जाएंगे. आई मीन won't be considered pass or fail. It's just your personal experience. Yes.
Stress, anxiety.
Stress and anxiety. Good one. Stress, anxiety. After that, hand up. कौन बोल रहा? Yes.
Boredom.
Boredom. Okay. Boredom is kind of state. You can say it's not a problem. Okay. Just boredom.
Need of money.
That means poverty basically. Need of money. Right. So poverty, stress, anxiety.
Suffering in material world.
That's very deep. Suffering in material world. I mean that consists of all the problems. That's the cause of any other. Yes.
Or just fear of doing something new.
Fear of doing something new. Okay.
Urges.
Urges. Okay. I mean these fear of doing something. These are practically emotions. From these emotions, problem arise. Or something that you consider a problem that causes these emotions to arise. It's vice versa. I'm asking you all the problem. What is the problem? Yes?
Depression.
That's anxiety, stress, depression. Okay. Any other? Yes?
Intoxications.
Oh, okay. Those are again they are causes of problem. Right? So we are asking problem. Let me name a few for you, We said poverty, right? Poverty we said, anxiety, depression we said, right? Then let us say there is something, problems are what? That you do not desire but they come, right? So let's say how many of you all had an experience that you all took birth, right? After a few years of your lifetime, you came to know, I desired my birth in this particular family or in this particular world. How many of you all had any kind of revelations like that? No one, right? So this birth is also a problem because of which. Then again, after you're born, you're supposed to grow old, right? So does anyone here wants to grow old? Anyone voluntarily wants to grow old? No, right? So we are forced to grow old, right? So that's old age. That is also a problem again, right? So now from this point to that point, from birth to old age, there are two things again, right? So one is what does one face? Birth and diseases, right? So birth, death, old age, diseases. So these are kind of something that no one wants. Poverty is also something that no one wants, right? So that's the whole discussion. Okay, these are the problems, and these are just kind of we can say material problems, right? These are something that is related to the body. Okay. But now we are seeking for some spiritual solutions on this. Like what is the solution? Now let's say we are here in Mumbai, right? So from past few days, rain has started coming. Okay? But previous to that, there was heat. Someone living on the top floor, on a terrace or something like that, if you go in the afternoon, it's scorching heat and it's like kind of very high temperature. So one may say that how do I get myself, in a much more comfortable situation by what's the solution for this? So one can say that okay, let us go to some place which is much more cooler, or let us install a cooler in the room or an AC, right? But installing a cooler or an AC is not something spiritual. Okay, this is something material again, solution for material problem, and the problem is also material, solution is also material at the end of the day. But now let's say, then what is spiritual practically? How do we find the spiritual problem? First, we have to identify what is spiritual, the very definition of spiritual, right? स्पिरिचुअल होता क्या है? हमको प्रॉब्लम तो पता है क्योंकि हम लोग मटेरियल वर्ल्ड में, हम में से कितने लोगों ने थोड़ा बहुत स्पिरिचुअलिटी एक्सपीरियंस किया, या फिर हु नोज अबाउट सोल कैसे दिखता है, या फिर क्या चीज़ें कैसी दिख रही हैं एज इट इज, लाइक ये किसी ने नहीं देखा. तो स्पिरिचुअल सोल्यूशन ढूंढ रहे हैं, कहाँ ढूंढ रहे हैं हम? हमने कभी क्वेश्चन ही नहीं किया, फिर हमको उसका एक्सपीरियंस ही नहीं. That's something which is we can call an uncharted territory for us, for a living entity, right? We've not gone there. But when a person he says, or we can see, and from the condition right now after the wars, you can say, or in most of the places, there's something that we call poverty, right? कि poverty, below poverty line एक एरिया बताया था, स्कूल्स में पढ़ाया जाता है हमको कि these people or this section of the society belongs to the below poverty line, right? So what is poverty practically? How do you define poverty?
Not fulfilling the basic needs.
Okay, that's pretty good. So that's the definition. Ki, let's say, as we talked about scorching heat, we'll consider the vice versa, right? Let's say someone, it's a cold winter and one is not able to afford blanket. He's considered to be, poor. That's what we call poor. Not as in someone who's having very low income, someone is able to, do with his daily needs and everything. That is the actual definition of poor. What we actually term, what is the poverty in this particular place. And same goes with the person who's not able to afford food and stuff, So that is what we call who is in the poverty zone. But now one may say, how can this be solved? Poverty. What's the basic definition? On what basis we say that a person is poor? What is that one thing that's lacking? And if one thinks that I possess that, I won't be poor anymore. Loudly. That's it. Money, right? Okay. So that's the whole thing. We think that if one has money, he can get food, clothing, shelter, right? And that is sufficient for one to make happy. But now in society, it's a very tragic thing to see. The thing is that one who's having money also, he is having all the facilities available, still is having problems, right? How many of you all have seen people like that, or been with them, or are one of them? Most of us, You've seen people out there who think that money is the solution for everything. That's the whole essence, right? Now, considering this, let us consider the first case. Let's say someone is living in a cold area, right? A cold region, let's say, foreign or something like that. So what does he think? That now he's having money, everything he's having, right? He's having the money, so he gets what? An air heater or something, heat circulation system in his room. And he thinks that I've solved the problem now, right? But you know what? If you study this heat circulation system, what happens is, since there is less air circulation, because of that only they are able to prevent cold atmosphere, right? And if you want to cool down a room, it's the opposite. You have to kind of, circulate the air and everything. Now, because of this air circulation, what gives rise to it is there are much more, we can say, exposed for getting, flu, cold and everything. Now, in order to, solve this problem, right? They go to a doctor. Now, let's say a doctor gives a medicine. Now, that medicine has side effects, right? So, in this material world, what we see that we are having problem. Once we find a solution for that, we get a bigger problem. That's the whole thing. By applying material solutions to it, right? What was the correct solution for, kind of getting rid of that cold or getting into a comfortable situation was to get a heater, He got a heater, got into much more problem. Then, what was the another problem? He got diseased. So he went out to get medicine and got a side effect. Now, one may say that it's not necessary, that he always gets a side effect. But we term, a few of the examples. So this is kind of some research work. Okay. So there are the very first time when these contraceptives were introduced, contraceptive pills. So in order to reduce or kind of reduce the birth rate initially. So there was this very medicine called pyridilmide. So this medicine was supposed to control the birth rate, right? So what happened was when they consumed this particular pill, children were still being born, okay? But that was not the problem. right? The problem was that these children, they didn't have hand and legs. That was the side effect of this particular medicine, right? So the problem was what? Birth was the problem. So they wanted to reduce it by administering some medications, which they researched throughout, the whole scientific era or something like that. Now, after administering it, what happens is the children are still being born, but the problem is they are not having hands and legs. Much more hassle now, right? So this particular, there was, an age of these kids, they were known as Philadelphia kids. So you can search it out later on. So, it's kind of like that. And even very recent thing, or everyone is familiar with it. Most of you all would be consuming it also. So we are having cold drinks or aerated drinks, right? The Coca-Cola or something like that. So previously what used to be there, for the preservatives, they used to have something known as chlorofluorocarbonate, right? So what they thought in the starting, that since we have made this particular, a beverage, now this beverage gets spoiled. What we'll do, we'll try to preserve it. And for preserving it, they added this particular preservative. And for a long time it happened. But the thing was that since it is kept for a longer time, this particular chemical composition caused a reaction which gave rise to something known as carcinogenic, output, and that in turn causes cancer, right? Similarly, they all figured out a solution for a problem, but at the end of the day, it led to a bigger problem, that is cancer. So this is what happens when we try to apply material solutions to our material problems, right? Now, even if, let's say, someone is kind of saying, see, these are all external, I don't drink, kind of these beverages or something like that. And I'm happy in my life, I'm having everything. I'm having sufficient money to go through. I don't depend on these beverages or something like that. Even then, someone is having money, someone is having all the, you can say, good things in life. Let's consider the recent case, or not so recent, of Amazon's founder, Jeff Bezos, right? This guy has everything, right? He owns everything. But you know what? From what was he unhappy? Was his relationship with his wife. Similarly, if one has everything, even though he's having everything, there are problems in his family. He is not satisfied, kind of, or the most prominent, which was our first answer to what our problem that is, anxiety, depression, psychological problems. And 70%, you'll be glad or kind of surprised, 70% of the population is suffering from these things. Because there's no age group. Even a small kid of 10th standard, 5th standard, they have anxiety, depression. They have attacks, panic attacks, right? So this is the condition in today's era. So, and still, now when we say that it's normal or having money is normal, having good relationship, but what about psychologically speaking? Oh, sorry. Sorry for the interruption. I guess we are having attendees now, right? So now when we say so what's the solution then? Okay, we are having problem, we are having this thing. So let's come on terms with it. There are many influencers out there who say that these problems are going to stay. Okay, eat, sleep, be merry, and tomorrow we shall all die. That's the slogan that they use. So we all should come on terms and make our life revolve around, because they say that this is natural, that is, birth is natural, old age is natural, disease is natural, All of these things are natural, and one has to go through it. No need to worry about it, and everyone has their own time. So enjoy the time that you have left in your life. That's what they say. But is this the reality? I mean, are these things so-called natural? How many of you all think it's natural? I mean, we all go through these phases, but are they natural? If they were natural, why wouldn't you be able to come on terms with it? Why won't your mind accept it? Or why won't you accept it very easily, apart from someone else's help? That is the whole thing, you know. And right now, we are talking about everything spiritual and stuff, but first we have to know what is spiritual, right? So in today's era, when we talk about spirituality, the so-called labeled spirituality is termed in meditation. If you are having any kind of problem, they give you some breathing exercises, right? It may reduce your, you know, sensation, or you can say that particular intensity of that particular problem, but that is not the final solution of it, right? That's the whole thing, right? That particular meditation is not the final solution. After that, let's say they are having this few days of retreat camps where you are not supposed to carry any mobile phones, you're not able to talk with anyone else, you just have to go there, sit in peace, you'll be under observation of an instructor, they take you somewhere in a hilly area or something like that. You live 21 days without speaking. And then after coming from there, they say, you know, we felt so good. But after one day, they are again in the same state of mind. So is that, you know, permanent solution? So what are we seeking for? Are you all seeking for something which is temporary or something which is permanent? You know? Right? Permanent. I mean, everyone seeks for permanent. Even in jobs, you seek for permanent jobs, not something which is otherwise, right? So that's the whole thing. We are having everything that is available. Now, the spirituality is, we can say that this meditation and everything is actually an antidote. Antidote, you all understand. We are having COVID vaccines. One vaccine is administered, another version of that particular virus attacks, you are ill to it. Then they make another vaccine for the countering that particular, you know, disease or that particular virus. Then again, that virus immunes itself to that vaccine, and vaccine series is going on as long as the virus series is going on. It's, you know, never ending kind of. So that's the whole thing. But this is not spiritual, you know. This is just to put an end to stress and anxiety. That's the whole thing. Now, spiritual solution means what? You know, spiritual solution means that we have to come from material platform to something spiritual. Now, what the spiritual, you know, the very term spiritual means. So, when we say spiritual, there are three factors that come in. Okay, Sat, Chit, and Anand. How many of you all have heard about it prior? Very few. Okay, your hands up. So, Sat means what? Something which is eternal, right? Sat. Chit means full of knowledge, cognizance, you can say. And Ananda means bliss. Bliss, or let's say perverted from a bliss, you know, form of bliss is happiness. Because happiness doesn't last long, but bliss is something that takes you. Both. This is something which is spiritual. But now, what is material then?
Happiness is material.
No. These three factors, if you say, I mean, I had to put the question in a complete frame. But the thing is that material word is Asat, Achit, and Niranand. Right? That's the whole thing. Asat in the sense that it is temporary. Okay? Shan Bambur हम लोग हिंदी में बोलते हैं इसको. क्षण भर के लिए होता है. Okay? And Achit means full of ignorance or no knowledge, kind of. We forget what we learned yesterday or the session that we attended last Sunday. We won't be remembering it right now. Even the topic we won't be remembering, right? And then Nirananda. There is no bliss here. That's the whole thing. Practically no happiness, just an illusion of that, which we are trying to, or which we are chasing after, right? So now, let's say we see in this particular era that they give you so many things. Someone suffering from bone issues or something like that, they give you vitamin C tabs, right? They are giving you vitamin C tabs, and there are antioxidants. Then for depressants, antidepressants are there. For people who are much more depressed, they have different stuff like that, right? But there is no medicine known as anti-death. Has anyone ever taken it? Like, has anyone ever seen it? Like, I've kind of made notes of it to go in the flow. So No, I'm referring it and then I'm saying because if you go out of the flow, it will be quite difficult to understand, right? So first we talk about death, right? Everyone has to face it. So if we are so advanced that we are making antioxidants, and antidepressants, why aren't there, something known as anti-deaths? But we are being promised by the scientists that, in coming future, we'll be able to make everything which is, immortal, kind of, we'll be able to defeat death. That's what we are trying to do. But the very life in this particular material, world is temporary, right? Let's start with different ages. There was Stone Age first, that they say. After that came prehistoric age. Okay, prehistoric age. After that, you can say the very before Christ era. Then they say there came a medieval period. Then you have industrial period. The industrial revolution period. And today's world, the today's era, is known as the information era. So these eras are keeping on. They are changing every now and then, after every century or something like that. That's the nature of this material world. It keeps on changing. It is not static, kind of. So how do we find, how do we find that particular solution? Because of this particular factor, because of lack of knowledge, we are unable to decipher this particular material world. We are not able to understand the nature of it, right? So now what is required, we are so much advanced. Our advancement dates back to, you see this very building? We have so many people sitting over here. We are able to construct, human intelligence is able to construct these buildings, such a big building, right? And on the other hand, we are able to split atoms through the Ford's theory, atomic theory and stuff like that. But we do not know who we are. Very basic question. So intricate things. Even our eyes can't perceive, atom. You need a device in order to access to it or something like that. Some people to observe it. But we are not questioning or we are unable to find who we are. That's the whole thing, right? Now some people may think that we are this body. Because with our cognizance and everything we are able to perceive what? This particular body as a self. So there's nothing, can you say that there is nothing wrong with it? That perceiving ourselves as a body? We are this body, particularly. I mean, this is the one thing that's with me through my whole journey, right? On this material planet. Can one say that we are this body? Think about it. I mean, we are in no rush. It's still half an hour. You all can give it some thought because our program is self-excellence, right? So we put our brains to use sometimes. Just think about it and answer it confidently. I mean, even if you are wrong, you'll learn something new. And if you are right, then well and good. Or even if you are close or same lines, you can get better understanding of the same thing. Just think about it. Anyone can raise their hands and answer. If they are ready right now, also they can answer it right now. Just don't sit like a wooden doll on the table. Interact. We are living entities. We are all having cognizance. We are able to understand the language in which this session is going on, right? So better to interact. Think. Anyone? Like this, you have to raise your hand. Someone is confused about. I'm saying what's wrong when one considers that he's, it's completely right that I'm this body, if I say, because throughout the whole system, my body is with me, right? My whole journey on this material planet. Then why is that wrong? I'm saying that it's wrong. Well, the scriptures say that this is wrong. We are not this body. Yes, true.
Not this body.
We are not this body. Okay. But why?
Because it in itself, like, we just can't accept that we have so much intelligence and we think that when we die everything ends there. Not it.
That's your conception or that's your understanding of death? I'm asking about body.
Yeah, body means at that time everything ends, right? If if I'm this body and I die, that means that everything ends there.
So what memory of you do you have of your previous birth then?
There's no memory. That's the issue, right?
So then how can you claim?
But I didn't say that I am claiming, but I said that I just can't accept the fact that I am body and everything ends when I die.
Then how do you counter it?
That's why lecture.
Right? Good. Like he said, that's why we lecture, spiritual solution to material problems. Okay, so we'll go through it. Okay, you want to answer? Yes, Prabhu.
Our body is made up of Panchatattva.
Our body is?
Made up of Panchatattva.
But I can't see, air, water, fire, earth is there in this particular thing. Can anyone see air in this? In my body? You see flesh, bones. I mean, if you dissect it, then you'll be able to see bones, right? Who's able to see air? Who's able to see water? Maybe. No one is able to see. Earth?
We can't see because it's subtle body.
Huh?
It's subtle body.
Subtle body is towards the mind, intelligence, and false ego.
Gross body.
This is the gross one. Gross is something that you can perceive. Let me answer it. I was just, kind of. Yes.
I think it's the body because during this age we are very young, so we cannot experience the spirit world. So I think it's
Okay. Okay. So now it's good. Now the understanding will be clear, right? So, do you accept this fact? This body is temporary, right? And do you all accept this that we all desire eternity?
Immortality.
Yes.
Yes, immortality, right? So, is it natural for something which is temporary to desire immortality?
Yes.
How is that? Yes.
If it has consciousness, then it will.
No, it's not natural. You can't say that a fish wants to live on a land. He wants a 4 BHK. It goes completely against its nature, right? That's not its nature. This very material body that we are having, it's temporary. That is the fact that we accept. The another thing is what? That we all desire eternity, right? Right now, you all will be having memories of your childhood, right? From your very childhood till date. Huh? But is the body the same body of the memory that you were experiencing at that point of time? This is some childhood memory. The memory is still there, but are you the same person? Or if I say that, show me that childhood person who experienced this memory, will you be able to do that? Right? Or right now, whatever you experienced years ago, let's say your final exam stress or something like that. So the person who was giving that exam, can you show me that particular person right now at this particular moment? No. Right? That's the whole thing. So one thing is that here what we come to know that the body and the one experiencing are two different people, Body is something which is temporary, okay? And we all desire eternity. So the material thing cannot desire. Something which is temporary can't desire eternity, right? So what desires eternity is the spirit, the soul, the one who is experiencing. So in Bhagavad Gita there is a shloka, Dehino asmin yatha dehe. So this is Dehi. What we are experiencing is the Deha, right? The body. But there is someone inside the body who is called as Dehi. Okay? So that's the spirit soul who is kind of, experiencing all this. Now one may say, that, so the one thing that we can do now, we can just go ahead and there are people, who become frustrated with life and stuff like that. And they'll go and die. Suicide directly. But if you look at it, someone may say that it was their desire to die, that's why they committed suicide. But is that correct? We all don't desire, to commit suicide. There's no one who wants to experience death. So that's the proof, Suicide is, why does a person commit suicide is because he's frustrated with the life he's having right now. And now, as per the Shastras, one thing is what? That to kill a body is, under kind of, sinful acts. So now, this particular person who kills a body, he is refrained from getting a body and gets a ghost body. Right? So, usually when we were kids, we used to ask, do ghosts really exist? So, our answer to this question is now, you can find there are people, who are committing suicide. So, where will they go? Again, they'll be getting a ghost body. So they are there, they are, kind of present, right? And then based on this particular body, we try to perceive what? Perceive something which is called happiness. And now our happiness is based upon what? Our happiness is based upon the senses, right? We are having all the senses, particularly, And now when we perceive from these things, let's say we are having eyes. Some people may like to watch some, dramas, movies or something like that. For them, this is something which is kind of, giving pleasure to their eyes. Some people may have some other affinity, by utilizing their eyes in a particular manner. We are having nose, we all want to smell or, get fragrant flowers or something like that. Enjoy the aroma practically through the nose. We all are having, mouth. So from mouth, everyone loves, to say some shairis or something like that, something poetic like that. You want to enjoy that, but we have a tongue inside. Tongue wants to taste different rasas, different mellows. Some people like, very sweet things. Some like sour, some like bitter, some like, they're having variety of things. So from these things, we are trying to enjoy our senses, right? Our very enjoyment or our very conception of enjoying this particular material body comes through our senses, right? But we avoid something which is unpleasant to the body, right? Let's say if eyes are there with you and someone is not from a medical background and there's a dissection going right in front of him. Someone's stomach is being teared off, an operation is, we all cover our eyes, right? Or you see a dead body lying on the road, go ahead. You smell something which is nasty, garbage dump or something like that. You close your nose, taste something which is, rotten, you spit it out. Hear something, sound, for example. Let's not kirtan or not something that you like. There's a glass window and there's someone scratching with his nails, on the glass window. You won't like that sound. So at the same term, there's duality. We try to provide to our senses something which is pleasant and avoid something which is unpleasant. That's the whole thing that we do, right? And now, in order to avoid or kind of get out of these particular situations where we don't want to be, we create problems, right? In order to avoid it. That's the whole thing, I mean, any kind of, for example, let's say problems can be created, be it mental, physical, right? It's not generally that we are having physical problems only. We can have mental problems also, and there are many examples, right? Physical is something when you do hard labor, right? तो घर में है आप तो मम्मी ने बोल दिया ये कर दो या ये उठा दो, फिजिकल पेन चालू हो गया. कॉलेज या स्कूल में बोल दिया नेक्स्ट डे सरप्राइज टेस्ट, मेंटल पेन चालू हो गया. क्या अगर प्रिपेयर्ड नहीं होता, if someone is prepared, he will feel ecstasy. Well and good, I have studied for this. Good, I have already prepared for it, right? So now, we have talked about problems sufficiently. Now let us talk about the solutions, right? The solution is what? Solution is very interesting and easy. So there are these 3 verses in Srimad Bhagavatam. I'll be reading one of them, okay? We have discussed just for we started at 6:30, now it's 7:15. Problems we discussed for approximately 45 minutes, right? Solution will get over within like this. So spiritual solutions are like that. Material problems are so big, so lengthy to discuss. But once you apply the spiritual solution to it, they are nothing comparatively. That was the essence of this session. So let's read out the very first shloka, okay? And I'll read directly the translation and purport, okay? So if anyone wants to note it down, they can note it down. So this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 25th chapter, text number 23. So from 23 to 25, these 3 verses give the answer, right? And the very name of this particular chapter is the glories of devotional service, right? So we'll read the shloka. मदाश्रया कथां भ्रष्टा शृण्वन्ति कथयन्ति च तपन्ति विविधास्तापनयतान् मदगतचेतसा. Translation: engaged constantly in chanting and hearing about me. This is Supreme Personality of Godhead saying, okay? The Supreme Personality of Godhead. The sadhus do not suffer from material miseries because they are always filled with thoughts of my pastimes and activities. Perfect. There are multifarious miseries in material existence, right? So this is those pertaining to the body and the mind, those imposed by other living entities and those imposed by natural disturbances. So Adhyatmic, Adhibhautik and Adhidevik, that's the three kind of problems. But the sadhu is not disturbed by such miserable conditions because his mind is always filled with Krishna consciousness. And thus he does not like to talk about anything but the activities of the Lord. Maharaj Ambarish did not speak of anything but the pastimes of the Lord. Vachamsi Vaikuntha Gunanuvardhane. He engaged his words only in glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sadhus are always interested in hearing about the activities of the Lord or his devotees. Since they are filled with Krishna consciousness, they are forgetful of the material miseries. Ordinary conditioned souls, being forgetful of the activities of the Lord, are always full of anxieties and material tribulations. On the other hand, since the devotees always engage in the topics of the Lord, they are forgetful of the miseries of material existence. Now, this is something I have described the characteristics of the sadhu, right? So, how is that a solution? First thing, we all know that, as we discussed in the session, in order to, advance, we have to, if we are seeking solution, which is a spiritual solution, so we have to come first on the platform of the spirit, right? On the spiritual platform, kind of. Now, what happens is, coming on spiritual platform means what? The very definition is to become the devotee of the Lord, because we, as a spirit soul, are subservient to the Lord. Our very identity is valid only and only if we are connected to the Supreme Personality of God. That's it. If we are disconnected, we hold nothing. Just like a spark of fire, right? Unless and until that spark is with the fire, it has its identity. This spark is there. But once that particular spark leaves the fire, it gets, we can say, extinguished. Right? It doesn't exist anymore. Similarly, we have to be servant of the Lord. That is a position that we have to come to, right? Now, a person may be very rich, very opulent, or he may have, much more respectable position in this material world. But he has to give up all that. Why? Because this is, this condition is a false condition. And if he wants to go back to God, he has to give up all this, particular upadhis, we say, the designations, the positions. Now, in order to move to that particular thing, or in order to give up these things, what is required is, we can't see. There are people who are bound by something. You would have seen we can say the thieves or the criminals, when they are taken to a particular place, or we can say to jail. So they are tied, handcuffed practically. Or you would see, some black cloth would be put around, some ropes would be there, and usually they bound the serious criminals' hands and legs and everything with the ropes. So we are also bound similarly. But the thing is, our ropes are invisible. How many of you all think that you all are bound or have experienced it? Raise your hand. Right now, sitting over here, you all think that we all are bound by something. हमको बांधा गया या फिर हम बंधे हुए किसी चीज से, just like a puppet. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. See, I'll be asking the reasons also, right? So one who's raising the hand, be ready to reason for it. Okay? Yes, bro.
Family.
Bound by family.
Material natures. 3 modes of nature.
But can you see?
Sleep. We are bound to sleep. And we are bound to eat more. Yes.
Symptoms. Yes.
Mind.
Bound by mind.
Mind.
Okay.
We are actually bound by desires.
Who else raised their hands? Okay, yeah.
Bound by some sense of duty to do something.
Okay, so that is
Bound by family pressure.
family pressure.
Bound by anger.
Okay, good. But the thing is, we are giving different aspects of it. But what Prabhuji said, bound by the three modes of material nature. So these three modes, in order to understand them, you all can think of a puppet, right? आप मतलब मैंने भी आज तक कभी एक कठपुतली का शो नहीं देखा. Something which goes on. I've only seen it in TV. और ऐसे in person नहीं देखा. But he is the one, the puppeteer is the one who controls the puppets, right? Similarly, आपके भी लाइफ में ऐसे सिचुएशंस रहे होंगे, ऐसे इंस्टेंसेस रहे होंगे जहाँ पे आपको पता है क्या सही है और आप जो कर रहे हैं वो गलत है, लेकिन आप उसको चाह कर भी छोड़ नहीं पा रहे हैं और सही को पकड़ नहीं पा रहे हैं. किसके लाइफ में ऐसा नहीं हुआ वो हाथ ऊपर करें. क्योंकि मैं ये पूछूंगा किसके लाइफ में हुआ है तो सब हाथ ऊपर कर देंगे. तो किसके लाइफ में ऐसा नहीं हुआ जो हाथ ऊपर कर सकता है, राइट? सो ये किस लिए होता है? दिस इज ड्यू टू द influence of various modes of material nature, and because of the severity of influence of these modes, there are different species of life. किसी को कुत्ते का शरीर मिलता है, किसी को बिल्ली का मिलता है, किसी को गधे का मिलता है, किसी को घोड़े का मिलता है, हमको मनुष्य का मिला हुआ है. और मनुष्य में भी 4 लाख श्रेणियां हैं, 4 lakh categories again, even in human being in this world, right? So we are bound by these three modes. Now in order to become free from these three modes, this particular shloka, 3rd canto, 25th chapter, 23rd verse, wherein the Lord himself says that one who is very busy, in remembering me is actually freed from all the material miseries, all the kleshas, adhyatmik, adibhautik and adidevik. All these kleshas is freed from that. And if one wants to get freed from all of these things, he must associate with such personalities. He must take their association, and once he is associated with them, then he'll become free and become eligible to come back home, back to God. Right? We see that there's a saying in English: a man is known by a company he keeps. Right? So if one is having a saintly personality, he'll be with the saints. If a person is a drunkard, he'll be with the drunkards. But the thing is, if a drunkard comes in association with a saint, he can become a saint. Very example is our movement. Our very movement is the prime example of it. Srila Prabhupada went to the West, right? They were all hippies, high on drugs, because being high on drugs means high on life. But Prabhupada said what, that here you go high, but you come down low. But if you take to this process, you will remain high forever. So they thought, we have this instance, this very momentary experience of becoming high, and we are still chasing after it. But this Indian Swami, he is telling that if you take up to this process, you will remain high forever. And that's why they took it up with full heart. Now if someone says, or we go out and say, just take these beats, chant the rounds, come and associate with us, have beautiful kirtan, dance in the kirtan, and have prasadam after you get tired. So we are giving you everything, a fully air-conditioned hall, and you hear something which you will be benefited from. Now after hearing, most of the times someone is not inclined, so much intellectually, so he might become tired, some might doze off, or become, physically also, mental stuffs also affect someone physically. So let's say you become hungry, you're giving you, nice prasadam, tasty prasadam and everything. After that, you are having Q&A. Let's say someone didn't understand anything, he can ask questions, right? So it's all meant for a single purpose, that you take up to devotional life. We are not getting anything, government doesn't pay us how many youths are coming, take photos, take videos, write their names, send us their data, and we'll pay you accordingly. We'll give or sponsor your food or something like that. No one does that. We have to go out and struggle for it. That's the whole thing. So it's all meant for a single purpose, so that we come here, take association of devotees, and perfect our own selves. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Jivan sarthaka kari parokta. First you perfect yourself, then you kind of, help others or preach to others. Because if one doesn't know happiness, how can he share happiness? You're not knowing only what happiness is. Right? How can you share happiness? So I guess you all would have got the spiritual solution to material problems. We'll end the session here. Thank you all for patiently hearing me out. We can have some questions if someone has any, or we'll go ahead with the next schedule. Any questions? If you all have heard attentively. No questions. Okay. So in this session, I was the only one who was asking questions, right? Thank you so much. Pay attention. Hare Krishna. Okay, so no one moves right now. We are having a beautiful drama. Just set up. So we'll be moving things ahead. So we'll require patience for some more time. Hare Krishna.